Hey gang, AV here, and welcome to Storytime featuring the Amazing Spider-Man number 300. First and foremost, before I get started, today is October the 9th. The deadline for my contest is midnight on October the 10th. You guys have a little over 24 hours to get those videos to me. Get your entries to me. Stop procrastinating. I literally only gave you guys a month, and I've literally only got about a handful of entries so far. Quit procrastinating. I'm giving away some good stuff. And for those of you who have already entered, the odds are obviously in your favor. So, yeah, gang, stop procrastinating. Get those videos to me. And just in case this is the first time you've heard about it, in the video description down below, you will find two links. You will find a link to the contest video, as well as a link to the contest update, which I do suggest that you watch as well, because the entry rules have changed. But without further ado, let's get into the matter at hand. Amazing Spider-Man number 300. It's a key issue, and it's a key issue for several reasons. So many, in fact, that this video will probably run pretty long. So I apologize in advance, but I have a lot to go over with this book. First, you've got this little banner up at the top, says 25th anniversary issue. Basically, this is commemorating the 25th anniversary of the creation of Spider-Man. It's the 300th issue of the Amazing Spider-Man title. It's a milestone for the title. And believe me when I tell you that back when this came out, that actually meant something. Because back then, they were pretty anal about making sure that they had sequential numbers. And it's not like it used to be. It wasn't like it is now, where you have a book that comes out for like a month and a half, 2 months, or I'm sorry, a year and a half, 2 years, and then they cancel it and do a reboot because they know that #1 issues sell for more, or sell more copies. Back then, hitting a milestone like 300 was a very big deal, and it was actually something that they planned ahead for. The writers and the artists, or the writers and the editors and whatnot, would actually plan key monumental stories to coincide with these types of books, these types of milestones. So the fact that this is the 300th issue is a big deal. It features artwork on both the cover and in the interiors by one of the Amazing Spider-Man's most popular artists over the years, namely Todd McFarlane. And last but not least, it is the... oh, well, almost last, but not quite least. It is the last time that Spider-Man wore the black costume on a regular basis. And, last but not least, it is also the first full appearance, excuse me, and origin of the character known as Venom. So an awful lot going for this book, an awful lot of reasons to consider this a key issue. And it should probably come as no surprise, with everything that I've said, as well as the fact, especially for the fact that this is the debut of Venom, that this book shot up in price very soon after its release. Like within a year, maybe 2 years at the most after this book first came out, it had shot up to at least $25. 3 or 4 years later, it was up to $75, and it just kept climbing since then. And this is for a book that that came out in Marvel's heyday, back when everybody was reading comics. And I'm pretty sure that, this had like maybe 300,000 copies printed. It was no slouch. Now, and it's just continued to rise since then. It also features what's considered a classic cover. And there are two things that make it a classic. One is that it's instantly recognizable. You go rummaging through a back issue bin, or even if you're lucky enough to find it at a yard sale, just like thumbing through the stuff that's available, you know exactly what that is as soon as you see it. It just stands out. You know what that is when you see it. And the second reason that makes it a classic cover is the fact that because it's so iconic, it's been cover swiped numerous times. There have been several occasions where other artists, or even the same artist, have paid homage to this particular cover. Most notably, well, the earliest one that I know of was in the very next issue. Amazing Spider-Man number 301. Which, as you can see, has many of the same elements, done by the same artist, only now you got Spidey in the red suit with a white background. That was the earliest cover swipe that I know of, and two of the most recent include Spawn number 227, again done by McFarlane, and this time, and I believe this is my favorite out of the three that I'm about to show you, and it's because his attention to detail, the main reason why he was such a popular artist, in my opinion, is his attention to detail, and it just slaps you in the face with this book. I mean, look at it. He went to no, I mean, he cut no corners with it. He's got the chains here that simulate the outline of the webs. He's got the same exact pose. He's got the same elements staggered. The 227s in the background staggered. He's even got the little banner up there. He's got the little price box, thumbnail, even the same pose in the top corner. Outstanding job. And last but not least, we've got the second print of Amazing Spider-Man number 700. There was another one, a first print copy with Spider-Man. I think Romos did that one. I don't have a copy of it, but this is the second 700 issue of variant cover for 700 that copied 300. And I'm going to keep this out because I want to show you something. You see the 700s in the background? You see how they kind of get, well, not kind of, they actually do get darker, like a deeper red the farther you go down on the book? You see that? It's very interesting that they did that because they're actually paying homage to an aspect of the original 300 that some people may not be quite aware of, and that's what I'm about to talk about now. When this book was originally published, I believe it was intended to have a red around this shade, right around this color. Not quite this bright, not quite that dark. It was like right in the middle, like maybe right here. Actually, here, let me take this again. And as you can see with this copy, it's nowhere near that shade. And this, even with the case on over it, you can tell it's pretty much the same on the CGC copy I have here too. And I do have this out for a reason, and I'm about to get to it now. The reason why the 300s are different than what I just told you they should be is it pays to something I like to refer to as the orange scare. Basically, long story short, when this book was being printed, the cover for this book was being printed, they underestimated the amount of red ink that they were going to need in order to run off all the copies that they were printing. And the printer kept running low on red ink, so they would have to stop the press and reload the cartridge, or pour more ink in, or however the hell they do it, and then continue the process. As a result, there are many different shades of red in the background of this book out there in circulation. Many. You will see some that are very dark red, you'll see some that are very light red, close to even an orange. And it's because of the printing process. The reason why I have this book out, the graded copy, is to show you that this has the light red background and it's still got a 9.6. There is a myth, or maybe a preconceived notion out there among collectors, that the lighter the red, the more defective the book, because it's not the way the book was initially intended to look. And obviously CGC doesn't see anything wrong with that, because I had this book graded myself. This is the one I bought off the rack, and it came back at 9.6, and I can tell you, having handled the book previously, that there are other flaws with the book that justify the 9.6. The 9.6 did not come as a result to the different shade of red in the background. It's not recognized as being defective or anything like that. It doesn't have a qualified grade on there or anything. It's still universal. You know, you're still good to go. But just like all myths and incorrect notions, or whatever you want to call it, there is a grain of truth to it. There is a reason why people think that. And basically, if you look at these two books, they both have about the same shade of red for the background. Unfortunately, the two books did not get that shade of red in the same way. They both have two completely different reasons for why they look that way. This one got the lighter shade of red as a direct result of the printing process. This one, UV damage. Now, like I said earlier in the video, several 100,000 copies of this book were printed. And it was highly sought after and shot up in value on the aftermarket very soon after its release. The more and more people that went out looking for copies of this, the higher the price shot up. And because so many were printed, a lot of comic stores had overstock of it. They, you know, over-ordered it and put it in the back room and whatever. And then when they saw that the price was shooting up, they would stick one in the store window. Just to let people know, passing by, that they had copies of it. And unfortunately, this book found its way in a store window, and it stayed there for a little while, and the sun beat down on it every day, and it faded. And the way you can tell is actually by not looking at the red in the background. It's by looking at everything else on the cover. And I'm not sure how well I can show this off again, because the CGC book is in the case, obviously. But I mean, you see his foot? That's a lighter blue. That's more of a darker blue. Same with the webs. If you look at the whites especially, that's white. This is kind of like an eggshell color. Same with the price box. Even through the case, you can see that's white. This isn't. Might get a better idea with this. You see the white title on that book? Whoops, no you can't. You see the white title on the book? The reason why the colors are off on this is because of the UV damage. And you see that I'm handling it a little rough. That's because it's not worth much. It's a very valuable book. This one is. This one, I got this for $15. And I got it just to read because I knew I was going to be grading this one eventually. 15 bucks. Because of the UV damage. There really isn't much worse. There really isn't much else wrong with this copy. I mean, bottom's a little rough. There are a couple spine creases here. You know, rounded corners. Little tear there. But otherwise, not that bad. It's all because it was faded. And I'm pointing it out because it's still, to this day, a very highly sought after book. And unfortunately, faded copies like this one are common. Not as common as the copies with the lighter red due to the printing process, but they are out. But these faded, damaged books are out there. And hopefully, after watching this, you guys will be able to tell the difference. And if you present a convincing enough argument, maybe if you find one of these at a show, you can talk the guy down. But, anyway, get this out of the way here. And we'll get into cracking the book open. Alright, here we have the inside cover. Ad for Captain Power, which was kind of neat when I was a kid, I have to admit. And there you have the title page. Title, Venom. Scared Shitless MJ. Book was done by Dave McElwain, Todd McFarlane. Rick Parker did the letters. Yada yada yada. And why is she terrified? Oh, she's terrified of Peter. Let me see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Go. Alright. Terrified of Peter until he takes off the mask. She sees that it's him, gives him a hug, and then she explains that somebody that looked just like him was in the apartment and scared the shit out of her. So he leaves. And here we have Venom for the first time. You can barely see it, but he's crawling up the side of that building, comes in through the window, walks through the shadow, and as he comes out, costume disappears. He's got a whole bunch of newspaper ads featuring Spider-Man in the back wall there. Starts lifting weights. Whole bunch of ads on that page. And now we have Peter Parker. And he's remembering the events leading up to the black costume, like everything that he experienced because of the black costume. And I've got to laugh because this panel right here, that is nowhere near accurate to how he got the suit. But still kind of a cool panel to look at, nonetheless. And he says Reed Richards was examining the alien symbiote costume after he came back from the Secret War. He realized that the symbiote was trying to bond with him permanently. Found out that it was vulnerable to sound waves. Shot it with this gun. Black suit came back, tried to bond with Peter again. Peter took it to the bell tower of a church. The clanging bells weakened the symbiote enough to let him go, and he believed that the symbiote had died. MJ wakes up. She's still a little uncomfortable. They go get an apartment someplace. Or not an apartment, a hotel room, I believe. Wake up. She talks to him about finding a new place to live because she's unsettled by the fact that one of his villains came to visit. Peter says okay, she's happy about that. He takes off, and as you can see, he's got something webbed to his back there. Goes back to his apartment, sees a bunch of his stuff in boxes because they're getting ready to move. Checks his machine. Oh, after he unwraps the gun, it's the sonic gun, and same thing he used for the alien symbiote before. Puts on his street clothes, starts walking around, and this is a very cool sequence of panels here, because in the background there is only one character colored in, and the character's clothes changes from panel to panel. Very cool. Turns out to be Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock follows him into an alley. Peter Parker disappears. Obviously, he turned into Spider-Man and took off. Peter and MJ went to go take photos of the place they're about to move into. Peter's kind of depressed because he can't afford that place on his salary, which means MJ's going to be paying for everything, and he's kind of bummed out by that because he wants to provide for his lady. So she tries to cheer him up by taking off her blouse. Now they're at Aunt May's, talking with the old geezer that she was dating at the time. Can't remember who that was. Nathan, I think. Anyway, the girls meet in the kitchen. MJ tells Aunt May that Peter's in the dumps, so she gives him a hug. Yada yada yada. Brock goes back to the church. Security guard tells him he's not supposed to be there. Symbiote leaks out from his foot. Suffocates the guard. Moving day. MJ and Peter move into their new place. All their friends are helping them out. Peter's on the porch talking with Robbie as he sees Venom swinging past. Peter tracks him down, sees Brock going into his hideout, follows him in. Brock knocks him out. That's when Peter realizes that he doesn't trigger his spider sense. Venom loses the mask. Peter recognizes him as Eddie Brock. This is where we start to get his origin. In a nutshell, Eddie Brock explains that he used to be a reporter, and there was a case called the Sin Eater murders, where there was a character going around called the Sin Eater who was killing a whole bunch of people. This guy right here went to Eddie Brock and confessed that he was the Sin Eater. So Eddie Brock gave him an exclusive interview, published the results, and identified the Sin Eater, only to have Spider-Man capture, or not capture, but expose the real Sin Eater, which pretty much ruined Eddie Brock's career because he published false information. Nobody would hire him after that. Meanwhile, while he's talking, Peter's just inching his way back to the Sonic cannon. So Eddie Brock starts to vent his frustrations while lifting weights. He imagines that he's straining Spider-Man's neck as he's gripping the barbell. But seeing Spider-Man in the paper just makes him more and more and more pissed off. Finally, Eddie Brock gets so depressed that he decides to end his own life. And because he was raised Catholic and suicide's a mortal sin, he goes to church to beg for forgiveness before he takes his own life, and that's where the remains of the symbiote, which Peter Parker had discarded in the bell tower, oozed down from the bell tower, sensing Eddie Brock's despair, and decided to bond with him. And it's when they bonded that they realized that they both hated the same person, namely Peter Parker, otherwise known as Spider-Man. And that's when they set out to seek revenge. And now that the origin is over, Spidey makes a play for the cannon, and that's where the fight really begins. Spidey manages to get the upper hand. He grabs the cannon and he shoots Venom, and the symbiote becomes stunned but does not leave Brock, which tells Peter that they have bonded permanently. Thinking that Brock's down for at least a little while, he decides to leave and seek advice, get a new plan together. But Venom recovers just in time to see Spider-Man leaving, hits him with a web line, yanks him back through the wall and knocks him the hell out. Spider-Man wakes up, webbed to the inside of a bell. And when the bell goes off, Eddie Brock plans to kill Peter Parker that way. Spider-Man ends up breaking one of his hands free to catch the ball before it hits him. Eddie Brock checks his watch, realizes that the bell should have gone off by now. Something must be wrong. Spider-Man uses the momentum of the of the pendulum, grabs onto it, and uses the momentum to pull him out of it. Venom shows up. Spider-Man in these thought balloons, which are extinct nowadays, and frankly I kind of miss that. In the thought balloons here, he's remembering the fact that when the symbiote produced its own webbing, it actually made it from its own substance. And Venom had used so much webbing to adhere him to the inside of the bell that there's no way in hell that the symbiote could have regenerated all of that in the meantime. So he figures if he can get him to expend just a little bit more webbing, the symbiote would be too weak to defend itself. So he breaks this off at the top of the roof, knocks Venom off. Venom shoots a web line. Spidey cuts it. Venom shoots another web line. Spidey cuts it. And now the symbiote's got nothing left. Crashes to the ground. And he's out for the count. Spidey takes it to the FF with a mutated thing. I remember that. Thing used to look like that in the late 80s. Takes Brock and the symbiote to the FF for Freedom's Plaza. Thing sticks him in a little hibernation tank. Tells him that he's going to take it, keep a good eye on him. Peter goes back to his new place. MJ's upset. Peter doesn't know why. MJ says it's because of that suit. She'll never be comfortable while he's wearing it. So he takes it off, throws it in the fireplace. She digs out his old duds, and bada bing, bada boom. The return of the classic suit. And that's about it for Amazing Spider-Man number 300. This has been AV. If you like this video, check out my channel. If you like what you see there, then please subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.